Hello, this is the Harbor Night. I'm Mary. I give a conservative perspective about the world around me. So my introductions. Feedback is important, so feel free to reach out to me. And those links to do so will be provided for you in this episode. Alright, so some of the audio platforms that I'm on: Spreaker, Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, just to name a few. Alright, so this episode is all about soap operas and the commercial, the advertising aspects of the name. Now, this is the launch and this is the start of me getting into the perspectives and the many aspects of advertising and how that is influential into our culture, into our society. I think that advertisement, particularly in the American culture, and then, how that links out into other cultures, but particularly in the American culture, it really shapes the landscape of, I would say it influences, it has, or not influence, or depending on who you talk to, but it does have an influence, I think, in some way, shape, or form of our society. All right, here we go. Okay, so I'm going to do this quite differently now. So I'm going to, start out about the AI response of what was pulled for soap, the origins and the reasons of soap, the title of soap being tagged with soap operas. And then after that, I'm just going to, instead of just reading cold or what have you of the source of the links, I'm just going to summarize and give my interpretation, my thoughts and opinions about it. All right, so the term soap opera originated from radio dramas in the 1930s that were sponsored by soap manufacturers and other household product companies. These radio dramas were targeted at housewives who were the primary consumers of these products and were typically at home during the day. The shows were named soap operas because they were heavily sponsored by companies with Procter & Gamble being one of the first major advertisers to sponsor such dramas using their soap powder, a laundry detergent, Oxidol to be exact. So the name soap opera reflects to the close association between the shows and their sponsors, particularly soap manufacturers, is again Procter & Gamble, another one, Lever and Brothers, and Colgate and Palmolive. As these radio dramas became popular, the term soap opera stuck and was later applied to similar daytime television show dramas that emerged in the early 50s. All right, so I'm going to extend on this, and I'm going to summarize the source that I found that went into more depth about the aspects of soap operas. Here we go. All right, so soap operas. Soap operas started originally in the 1930s, before the 1950s. So the 1950s is when it was more prevalent, which means it was televised, particularly in 1940, 1950. And so, at the time of the 1930s, so we're going there with the Great Depression, and so in the fireside chats and everything of that nature. And it was a really big staple in people's homes, particularly in American homes, American culture. So families would be glued to certain shows, and when they were termed radio dramas at that time, they were particularly targeted to they had noticed their audience, and they noticed that their audience were housewives, because at the time when it was airing, they were serial dramas, and they were particularly aired during the evenings. So this was around the time that's when the first phase of it started. And it's particularly around the time, when housewives were rounding out all their daily chores and then winding down and then hearing, and then as it progressed, they understood it was even more popular to do so, the switch to daytime, because again, the target audience and the predominant viewership was from housewives. And so it started to expand out to where they were very understandable and repetitive, and they fit a certain, format, to where, if you're going through your day-to-day, whatever you got to do, your chores and so forth, you can still coherently understand the story plot, because it's organized enough for you to do so. And so out of this, a lot of popular radio shows transitioned to television. And one of the notable ones was, forgive me, like Laura or something. And so particularly how these soap, particularly soap operas, but I'll get to that much later. Well, earlier, much later. It depends on how the correlation goes with what I'm explaining and expressing here. It was just particularly dramas that center around the aspects of a moral compass of an older person giving advice to younger people, particularly with a Laura M or so. This is centered around the aspects of doing that. So she's an older person. She's giving advice to a younger woman. And, sort of for helping out with her life and her faults, because that perspective of, I've been there, I've done that. So, here's what I've learned from the experience that I've had, and I'm passing the torch on to you if you want to do so, if you want to take the advice. And so, as we get into the dawn of the 50s, 50s was one of those ages that was rapidly changing with the aspects of American culture, particularly in the aspect of monoculture, with going with the movement and the more mainstream advent of television. People start that shaped people's aspects or perspectives a lot about the society and culture. And so advertisers started to come on board, and they realized and they understood that the buying power and the selling power of the American woman. And so they say, before I get into the whole aspects of soap operas and everything, so they say about the aspects of women and culture and the aspects of buying power, it's so oppressive and all of these things. Well, I would beg to differ because of the aspects. Well, this for one here. So the aspects of the pink tax. Okay, so pink tax is the aforementioned. I would equate this to the aspects of women getting paid less in the workplace. All right, so with pink tax, they say women pay more for products, when initially they're not telling the whole story, and that's unfortunate with a lot of things that go on. Excuse me, just a minute. Alrighty, sorry about that. that's unfortunate that goes along with the whole narrative that surfaces, and particularly American culture. The gatekeepers or the powers that be, they only want to focus on certain aspects that best suits their agenda here. So with the pink tax, what they're not telling you here is that certain products are more because it costs more to produce them. Costs more. It's not so uniform to where you can strip down the cost of producing things, of making the product, where they go. For instance, the difference between men and women's razors is not the same. It's not equated the same. And so it's not like women are getting the raw deal or getting the shaft. It's just, if you look at it from that point of view, it will start to make a whole lot of sense. And then that's something that I think is very credible to do and credited to do when you have that sort of awareness about things. And so this is the part of the whole reason why I want to start out and focus a lot of attention in the aspects of advertising and culture, because essentially it's going to lead me to start talking about different businesses that shape the aspects of culture and society, because these things merge themselves together to paint a picture about the aspects of what is valuable in certain societies and certain cultures, how it translates to people's thought processes about things. And so my point being in starting out with soap operas here is that it proves disproves the narrative that women don't, they say that women are oppressed, they don't have all that much power, they don't want all that much influence in society. Well, that's far from the truth. When there's so many products that are centered around women, there's so many things that, for the most part, 9 out of 10, is going to focus on the aspects of women's issues. Even though it's a narrative where women are lesser than, but that's just not true. And then this also gets into the narrative and the aspects of you are what you think, when they go in that aspects of you are what you eat, that's very true. And those things coin itself in the same fashion. And so what I mean by this here is that that way you perceive things or think about things or internalize things, and the way you see things, whether it be on television, advertising or so forth, is really tailored towards the sort of mentality the person has. And I think advertisers, for better or for worse, they hone in on that certain aspects. It's up to the viewer to interpret things the way they interpret. So if you are, the mentality of being a sheep or going on the bandwagon, you're going to be heavily influenced or be a useful tool into certain agendas that are being brought into the aspects of our society about things. And so, with that being said here, advertisement is the means to an end that really showcase that and really makes a lot of commentary about how people are valuing their aspects of consumer products in societies and what that means and what that shapes. And so that's what is the center focus here on talking about soap. So soap was particularly laundry detergent, and it turned into soap with Procter and Gamble and everything. They, they co-lean with each other, correlate with each other, because they're in the same realm of what American housewives, the staple American housewives of what they need is cleaning products, particularly with the aspects of laundry. And so that is, again, going into the staple of the tradition of why radio dramas, starting to soap dramas, were in the aspects of why they were so popular. They were so popular because of American housewives. And so they knew this, and so advertisers knew this, so they went into that format of, of targeting that. And then, so they're going to show you the products, and particularly with the invention of television, they're going to, show these glossy products to entice women to buying power. So they say it's quite interesting with the aspects of JFK, when all the things now the JFK files are being investigated, and they're going, and the agenda and of that, and being influenced in that about what actually happened in his assassination, and all these conspiracy theories that seem to be conspiracy theories, or time will tell about that. They might not be conspiracy theories. But my point is bringing up JFK. He was a prime example of the aspects of how he knew he had his pulse on the button. He knew that if you want to stay and be predominant in culture, you have to move with the times. And Nixon just didn't understand that, and so he wasn't very television friendly. He wasn't very comfortable with being on camera, but JFK was, and he initially won, and that helped him earn the American public's trust and image about the aspects of the ability of loyalness of the American fabric of what the presidency can do with shaping and being the stability and the foundation and staple of American society. And when it comes into national defense and so forth, and so even to foreign powers and so forth, about the protection of American values and culture here. And so this also goes back to the aspects of what I was talking about earlier with fireside chats here. When Roosevelt, when he knew about the aspects of how important it is to have a huge rapport with people and to connect with people on a personable level, to where they start to understand that being a president isn't just something that's in a vacuum, or something that is, untouchable, or that's unfamiliar, to be personable or relatable to everyday citizens' lives. And, having that sort of rapport with your constituents here, that goes a whole lot of, that shapes a whole lot of the aspects of how people perceive their position with politics in America. And so, going back to soap operas here, like in their heyday, soap operas, they were mainly about the aspects of moral compass, of being, of course they have, dramas into it, but they were essentially sort of those aspects of how you have words of wisdom, but that's played out into the scenarios of the dramatic events that happens with the aspects of having things as a words of wisdom to everybody's life here. It was very more relevant and to that time when radio dramas were coming about, because again, it was during the Great Depression and the people were really going through it, and so they were finding means of escapism through certain outlets, and the radio was one of them. And so with the aspects, I think that's the difference between movies and television, radio, serial dramas, and then also with the aspects of television. So with movies, depending on if it's, when it in the beginning of different movies and then the phase of movies where they didn't really get into the aspects of sequels, it was pretty much completed in one movie. And so it was finished and you moved on to the next movie and the next and the next genre and the next. And so you don't really build any sort of relationship with these characters. But that was quite different with the aspects of television shows and radio shows, when you would tune in weekly and you would build this rapport with these certain characters, and these characters would be very likable and represent, depending on how the rapport they would give to people, and they would take that and people would find a means to have something else to escape with and to reflect on it and think about it and have the perspective about things other than what was going on in their own lives. And so I think that was a staying part of the aspects of soap operas here. When we get into the aspects of the 50s and 60s and so forth and into what it is today, it's not really, soap operas. They understood that aspects of merging all the worlds together into being relevant, but it's one of the ways of those things where those things are prevalent at certain times, and then it wears out its welcome, and then you move on. But if there's still an audience, there's still an audience, and there's still money to be made, there'll still be money to be made, and these soap operas will be made. But I think that was a whole rapport in the beginning with the intentions of soap operas to, particularly with American Housewives, where, they have a sense of escapism, they say, where the trials and tribulations of being a stay-at-home mom with all these things you have to do, to take care of your children. Excuse me. My throat is killing me right now, but bear with me. With all the things you have to do in day-to-day lives, they give that perspective that is so hard. But me personally, I see it as a gift, a privilege. Of course, that with anything else in life, there's our struggles and challenges, but it's up to you how you have the perspective about it. I don't see it as a daunting task, but it's something to put that perspective on, is how you feel about things, and I just think it's a privilege, not some horrible thing. So I'll be right back. Okay, so to each his own with that, but there's something to be said about the aspects and the staying power of soap operas. So again, soap operas really are telling signs of the aspects of American culture. Everybody relates to that. Particularly if you are me, my husband, other generations. Me and my husband, we're millennials, but other generations, Gen Xers and everybody before us, and then, a little bit after us here, Gen Zers. We all relate to the aspects of at certain points in our lives that we understood, and we saw the influence of soap operas and American culture. You know, it was either those things. They were way over the top story plots that someone cheating on somebody, getting hit, and then these beautiful people trying to, with the aspects of different solving their problems either through fist or through other means. And it's quite interesting, but particularly in the aspects of the 1980s, they really went on the bandwagon, and they really took it up a tier 2 times 10 maximum power here. The aspects of overblown drama, particularly with Dynasty and Dallas. So they all focus in on the aspects of these affluent, beautiful people who are trying to patch up the foils or the foibles of their lives, and trying to deal with that. And so that was particularly, if I'm not mistaken, that it was so relatable to American culture. They went into the aspects of merchandise with that show, with different game. I think it was a game, maybe. I'm not quite sure on that. I'm just thinking about what the different shows that I saw previous years about the aspects of these shows, particularly Dallas, and how they understood marketers and advertising companies understood the aspects of how important these shows were to the American people. Because, again, it was the aspects of the concepts of something being serial, or something that you build a relationship with that's not complete in one sitting. It just builds the rapport builds up after time, over time. And so, it's unfortunate that as soap operas turn to what they are, being very sensationalized, being overtly sexual. And people have made commentary about that, about the aspects of, you learn about the birds and the bees, particularly with school-age children here, from what they sing soap operas, particularly in certain genres, certain eras in people's life, depending who you talk to. And because they, again, go heavy on the aspects of romance, passionate romance here. And those things get played out into these soap operas to where they were tagged with a negative connotation with the aspects of being. It's one tag that I'm remembering about, strip drama and so forth, where, which overtly, you get these scenes where it's overt, it's sexual images and so forth that is undeniable, that's a selling point with a lot of things that go with, heighten up that ratings, where how more outlandish can we get with these sort of situations here. And so WGN was when I found out about it from the research, it's quite interesting. It was one of the first radio stations to become picked up as a television drama, to soap drama here and in American culture, and that's quite interesting. And I lost my train of thought, thinking back. So the cultural difference with soap operas, why they were called operas here. So they were more with the aspects of drama, but not so sophisticated in what was thought of, typical operas, where typical operas are more in the realms of being more sophistication and different manifest or those aspects of where the whole thing was about. That was for, if you're intellectual highbrow entertainment here, but they wanted to deem it as operas because it's particularly dramatic and along the lines of the dramatization of everything, and how that it's not so operatic to where it's unrelatable to people, to where again we're getting back to when the staple of the radio dramas were first popular and first being on the map. They were about middle America and how they were solving their lives and solving their problems. And that was very, very, very prolific to people at that time because, again, with the aspects of going through the Great Depression, people were really dealing with a whole lot of hardship and reality of where the next paycheck, living paycheck to paycheck, where were their food, when they were going to have their next meal, where that was coming from, and then soup kitchens and all this kind of stuff, and trying to make use of everything you have in your household and so forth. And so to listen to dramas that give you the escapism and escape to these different lives and to how they deal with things from day to day. It gives you some motivation to, giving different perspectives about, okay, that's something to relate to and give you a sense of hope and perspective about things. And that's Gitchy or something. Some people have that perspective too. But, it really goes without saying that, if you're mentally stable or mentally, self-aware about things, escapism, things in our culture really do have an influence on you. And it's really something nice to have, a little trinket to have in the back of your mind, to have a sort of a little thing to, or advent to, give you something to uplift to. And so we're going to end on this. And so that's something to be said with the aspects of soap operas and its influence on culture. It really shapes the fabric of our lives. And I'm being, referencing a very prevalent company commercial about cotton fabrics. So, that tagline, the fabric of our lives, cotton, because it is the fabric of our lives, because cotton does have different, depending on your casual wear, different, more dressy, casual, so forth. Cotton is a very durable fabric in American society, to where it's influenceable in our daily lives of the things that we wear. And I think that's soap operas too did shape the aspects of being a mirror into the staple of people's lives, particularly with American housewives, and how that shapes the mentality of how consumerism is thought of and different aspects, to where the different commercials expand onto that with the aspects of cleaning products, where it is mainly centered around families and extends to the aspects, depending on the times, with single people and their aspects of cleaning and taking care of their day-to-day needs, their household needs, and so forth. But again, going back to the aspects of the tradition, the conventionalism of soap products or the soap operas, or the reason why it was named soap products is because, again, they were really, really emphasizing the importance of families and the nucleus of a family, of traditional families. The mom and the dad, that they goes off to work and the mom takes out of the household, and how important that is in shaping the building blocks of American society, and how that close-knit unit really shapes the stability of culture and value. And that's something to think about here. So I'd like to know what you all think about the aspects of soap operas and its influence in culture and society. And I'll provide those links for you. All right, so this reaches the end of the Harboring Light. Tune in, turn up, and absolutely take care. Bye-bye for now.